A mistake people make with personal branding is they'll get online and they say, I'm selling this. People just mute you or unfollow you because they don't want to be sold to.
M. Curtis McCoy is an expert in personal branding who helps entrepreneurs build their personal brands to achieve success. His goal is to highlight entrepreneur stories and how they overcame challenges.
I built some very successful businesses, but every time I changed businesses, I was starting from scratch. I launched Newswire magazine to help other entrepreneurs skip that.
Explain it in simple terms what personal brand is.
Personal brand is how the world sees you. It's what you control. Building your personal brand, it's not a matter of money. If you are absolutely broke, start doing.
People want to build personal brand, but they want to make it as a separate entity. What are your thoughts around that?
It's a good thing to mix your brand, but be intentional about the message you want to share.
If somebody is willing to learn how to grow your personal brand, what can help them?
It completely depends what your business is.
So please welcome M. Curtis McCoy. Hey Curtis, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Man, RJ, I appreciate you so much for having me as a guest, and you made me sound like a rock star. I might not need to say anything, just let you roll with that interview or with that introduction.
Awesome. Awesome. That's truly appreciated, first of all. And I would love to know a little bit of a backstory, like how the things actually started for you in the first place before you actually came into the personal brand world.
So I've been in business. I'm probably old enough to be your dad.
Yeah, I'm
but
25 right now.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm 42.
Yeah.
I've been in business for years. I started my first business at 13 years old, like a lot of kids mowing lawns and stuff.
Yes.
But I figured out at that time that if I showed up like a normal little kid, dressed like a kid, with a lawnmower asking people to mow their lawn, I could make standard little kid wages, which was not a whole lot. But I went, I had my grandma take me to the thrift store, got a pair of slacks and a nice button-up shirt. So I went around looking like a little businessman, tied my lawnmower to the back of the bicycle, and I'd ride up and I made some little flyers, like Microsoft Paint or whatever, real cheesy looking little flyers. But then walking around or going around this retirement community, and I figured out, people would say, well, how much is it to mow my lawn? I said, well, listen, I can mow your lawn. I can pull weeds. I can weed eat. I'll pick up trash. I'll pick up dog poop. I'll do whatever it takes, and I'll work for you the whole day. And then at the end of the day, you just pay me whatever you think it was worth. So doing that as a little kid, working for these grandparent age people, I would make hundreds of dollars sometimes in a couple of hours. I'd say, okay, here's $200. I'd worked for an hour and a half. So I figured out at that time that showing up, doing more than you say you will, show up, not just be out there collecting money, but working as hard as possible so that when they got done, they're going, man, this little guy is working his butt off. But then also showing up dressed as a businessman, dressed professionally.
Yep.
I made so much more money as a little kid. So I've had business. That was my first real business. I went to school for aviation electronics, got a job offer from Lockheed Martin, got certified through NASA for ultra high reliability soldering. Kind of cool stuff like that. But I realized at that age that I would have been, I had the top job offer from Lockheed Martin, but I would have been capped on my income on what I could make. And it doesn't matter how hard, what ideas come up with, what I invented, I wasn't going to ever make more. So I went out, starting my own businesses, ended up owning a cosmetic medical laser clinic and a pharmaceutical company, white label pharmaceutical company, manufacturing bioidentical injectable research peptides. Realized there was a lot of money in pharmaceuticals, but it was a very dangerous, the DEA could schedule a product and instantly you go from making crazy money to now you're bankrupt and it's a felony to possess the products that you're selling. So we had got out of that, got into a cell phone company, but I kept, I'd launched all kinds of different businesses, Christian clothing company, a cellular communications company that we ran for 10 years, had 250,000 customers a month hitting our website at the peak of business. So I built some very successful businesses, but every time I changed industries, changed businesses, started a new brand, sold a company, every single time I was starting from scratch. And it took years to build that brand up to where people knew, like, and trusted the brand. And every time I was starting from scratch. Then I looked at these guys like Richard Branson, who had Virgin Airlines, Virgin Mobile, Virgin Galactic, Virgin Records, Virgin Media. this guy had built a brand. Not that I agree with his brand, the way that he promotes himself, but he built a brand as he's kind of the playboy party guy, um, advertising, built his own airlines. And because of that personal brand, when he launched something, people knew that it was going to make money. And he instantly had overnight a ridiculously successful business from building the personal brand. So in 2018, I owned a few cell phone stores. We had launched our own telecommunications company. I had employees working at 3 local stores for me, doing search engine optimization, building traffic for this site. And one of my employees mentioned that he saw that Newswire was for sale. And, Newswire launched in 1997. I was working 80 to 110 hours a week. Unbelievable, crazy work with the cell phone company. And Sam had said, "Hey, Newswire's for sale. You need to look at this." I'm thinking, what is wrong with you? I cannot work another minute in the day. I'm getting no sleep. I've got no friends. No, I can't spend time with family. All I exist for is work right now. I don't need another company. But he said, I really think you should do this. It's a good investment. So I ended up buying Newswire in 2018, and then went on for a few years there, building that up, and launched Newswire magazine alongside the press release company to help other entrepreneurs skip that, skip having to restart, rebrand themselves, build up a business, and not have the easy way out, like people who have a good personal brand where they can just say, "Hey, I launched something new," and people automatically know them, trust them, and like them,
Yeah.
and start doing business.
Yeah, I mean, like, first of all, like, that's so interesting. Especially like the examples actually you gave, for Richard Branson, right? Like like everyone actually gets attracted toward him as a personal brand, regardless like what he think about, like regardless how he live his life, all that, etc. Now, I'm actually curious, and I know a lot of people actually talks about personal brand, personal brand, personal brand. Uh, which like a lot of people who are kind of like either in the entry level or even on a a mid-tier level just don't understand like how it actually works. I would love you to like explain it in simple terms, like what personal brand is.
So your personal brand is basically how the world sees you. It's what you control. I mean, you've got the ability to control
Yes.
most of it. You see celebrities and rock stars and stuff that have lost control of their own life. So they're going out, they're partying, they're getting drunk or high on drugs, crashing a car or whatever. So now their personal brand, because
Yes.
they haven't managed control, their personal brand is, hey, this dude or this girl's life is a train wreck. Maybe hire her to sing, but don't do business with them because they're gonna mess it up. Um, Most of us don't have that problem where we are already so famous that we have to have to control how the world sees us. So when you're on, you can start building your personal brand. I get people all the time that say, "Well, I don't have the money to spend thousands of dollars." That one of the articles I was in recently featured in is a $15,000 ad spot. People go, "There's no way. I know I need to get my name out there. I cannot afford to put this kind of money out." But it's not a matter of money. You can start. There's earned media versus paid media.
Yep.
Earned media means you're doing cool stuff, doing good stuff. You're changing the world. You're making an impact. You've whatever it is to earn news coverage. So getting yourself featured in a local newspaper, um, magazines, whatever. Being on podcasts like this with you, I've got
Yes.
access to your audience now, to this massive audience that you're building out, and all I had to do is make a connection with you and figure out earn that relationship
Yeah.
to where you invited me on the show. And um, so earned media versus paid media. If you've got the money, if you're already successful, already building, already have a business that's paying well, and you don't have the time to be posting blog articles every single day, posting on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, uh, TikTok, LinkedIn, Pinterest, the Coup app, all these different, and there's 10 different networks you should be posting on daily, multiple times. If you don't have the time to do that because you're already successful, then pay somebody to do it. That's where the paid media can be massive. If you are absolutely broke, you're trying to figure out, how do I get started? I've got no money, I've got no clients. Start doing stuff just manually. Put in the work, get out there, put out good positive messages. Where a mistake people make a lot of times, with the personal branding, is they'll get online and they say, Hey, this is Curtis. I'm selling this. I hope you're interested. Here's how it can help you. People pretty soon just mute you or unfollow you because they don't want to be sold to. But if you get on every single day, like, hey, this is RJ. I've got a tip on whatever it is. If you're doing that every day, I'm working with an electrical company, all kinds of different companies that are starting to do that, where they're putting out just positive, inspirational stuff or tips that people can use. Now, if you're doing that like the Pareto principle, where you're putting out positive stuff 80% of the time, and you say, hey, this is RJ, by the way, did you know I've got a course? Did you know I got a book that just came out?
Yeah.
Now, people know, like, and trust you. They're going to buy from you automatically. But you either need to put in the work or spend the money, or combine the two is the best thing.
Yeah, that is absolutely amazing. And to like sum it down for other people, it's like the things that you are actually doing it on a repetitive basis, and the things that are associated with you and how it looks like to other people is kind of like becomes a part of your personal brand, right? For example, like guys like Alex
Yeah.
Ramosi, cap, tank tops, shorts, Crocs, desserts becomes like part of his like personal brand, right? Because that is something
Yeah.
he's doing on a repetitive basis, and how people actually perceive and think about like who he is, apart from like the content, all that, etc. But like all of them kind of like accumulated to become the part of his like sort of like personal brand. So I want to like talk about like a lot of people have these like questions around like, hey, if I, and it's kind of like a two-sided way, or double-sided question. It's like people want to like build personal brand, but again they don't want to put like every other asset of their business under their personal brand, because they want to make it as a separate entity. For example, like not everything have to be associated like Tony Robbins, right? So what are your thoughts around that? Like, what are some of the assets that they actually have to like put up under their personal brand, for example their personal name, and like what are the things they should exclude from that, from a business standpoint too? So what do you think about it?
And that's a real great thing that a lot of people miss when doing the personal branding. If you look at me, for example, I've got hundreds of thousands. I mean, one of my Facebook groups has 415,000 members as of yesterday, active members on there. Um, that group is built around, it's called Success, Motivation, and Inspiration. That group was built to promote my show on Amazon Fire TV, Success, Motivation, and Inspiration. So that entire group, 400,000 people, if anybody's posting anything that's not related to inspirational, uplifting, encouraging messages, stuff that's meant to help people live a better life, it gets deleted. And if they do it too much, they'll get blocked. Um, Talking about personal versus business page, I've got a personal profile that I rarely ever log into. But if I want to talk about something, about whatever it is, just random stuff, I'll post that, or I'll send a message to a friend or family or whatever. But the stuff on my business page, on the M Curtis McCoy Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, whatever, is all stuff that's related to personal branding or the lifestyle that I'm able to live because of the brand that I built. So I mean, it's a good thing to mix your brand, but I was actually talking to somebody on an earlier interview this morning with another TV show, but they were talking about, said, okay, you've gone through child abuse. My dad was pretty terrible. Um, Survived brain cancer, survived diabetes, survived, I mean, a lot of different stuff. I'm 10 surgeries in to save my right leg. They were planning on amputating a couple of years ago here. And so the lady was asking, said, why don't you share more of that? It makes you real, it makes you relatable. And I'm sharing it now where I don't typically talk about this,
Yeah.
but she said, why don't you share that? And it helps you to connect people, like with the brain cancer, where some days you're sharp, some days you're stumbling over words, can't finish a sentence. Why don't you share more of that and make you more relatable? I said, people will hear that if I want to show about, about overcoming adversity or overcoming abuse. I'm going to talk more about that kind of stuff. But my brand, I need people to see me as, here's what I do. I help people with their personal branding. And so separating those out, where if I go, okay, today I'm talking about this thing, but if I focus all the time trying to get viewers where say, no, I'm the guy that survived child abuse. Oh, and I'm the brain cancer guy. You start talking about all the problems. Pretty soon, my ability to connect with people as an expert or authority in personal branding is nothing. I'm the poor cancer kid, or the poor. So just focusing out, be intentional about the message you want to share, And even if that's, you look right now, I've got 3 iPhones on me that are, because you can only put, I think, 7 Instagram profiles on one account.
Yeah.
Um, so I carry 3 iPhones in order to manage not only my own stuff, but client stuff. And I'll post stuff on branding on some of the sites that are focused on branding. I'll post, but be intentional about what you post where. And for example, say you're overcoming drug or alcohol addiction, but you're also a phenomenal business coach, business leader. Now, if you're speaking on stages about I've overcome addiction, 20 years ago I used to be addicted to whatever the drug was, and now you're trying to coach on here's my leadership expertise. Those two clash. So have 2 different profiles. Have one about overcoming helping people. That's a good thing to share, and then have the other one about here's the business. Here's the problem that I solve for businesses. Long answer, but
Yeah, I mean, like that's a really solid point. And I remember, like, I had one of the guests on the podcast. He was like, he was like Steve Larson. He was talking about like all of us are kind of like a jack of all trades, but it's like you have to show to your audience that you are master of one. Because like we
that's
have
awesome. I
multiple
love
skill
that
sets,
advice.
right? Yeah, because we have multiple skill sets and we are like, good or better like in multiple things. But like for people to just really understand like what we actually do is like they have to understand we are master of one. So that was a really solid advice, especially in your case, how you mentioned like it's if you have like multiple things, either like split it so that like a certain set of audiences like watching your content from those socials, all that, etc. And only like those type of people are actually coming through as well, which is definitely an amazing advice. I would love to like know more about just your thoughts to see like what your thought looks like in the PR industry, like back in not back in the day, I would say like just in the last year or like prior to that, it was like a lot of people were charging uh, a lot of money for especially like for verifications, right? Instagram verifications, all that, etc., right? Which was cool because
And I
people
was
were
part
paying
of
a
that. I
lot.
had I had a guy that I would refer clients to that was charging $15,500 if you already had the media.
Yeah, right. So it was like people were paying a lot of money until Facebook actually came in, and even like first of all like X, and then Facebook came in with like, hey, pay a certain lowest subscription, $8 or $10 a month, get your blue check mark, good to go. How that actually influenced in general like the PR business? It's kind of like it always feel like always like social media come up with a Zano snap, and then like the whole industry just gets changed. How that actually
Yeah.
affected, or what your experience actually look like with something like that? What happened?
So that's a good thing. You're asking a lot of stuff that I have not been asked before. I'm doing 4 to 6, sometimes 8 podcast interviews in a day, and that's the first time I've been asked that.
I'm
Um,
glad.
it crushed a lot of media businesses. It crushed a lot of personal branding people that were I would say people that were out to game the system. So
Mm.
my part, like I said, I referred people off. I had a guy that charged 15.5 to verify if you already had the media.
Yes,
Um, but when that was the case, now when it's 10 or 15 bucks, whatever it is, to get your verification check mark on Instagram, I don't know what I pay monthly, but I'm paying for it. That's not an earned thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's allowed anybody and everybody. I mean, anybody can come up with 15 bucks a month to get the blue check mark,
Of course.
but it's also filled out. It's filtered out the people that don't have the check. Okay, they're either not doing good enough to afford that check mark, or they've realized that everybody and their grandma has the check, and so it's not as important anymore. When it was earned, there were so many more people that were paying for. Same thing with earned media. You can pay. There's always stuff. You look at our political stuff that's going on right now. These political people spending ungodly amounts of money in order to pitch a certain story and make themselves look a
Yeah,
certain way.
changing the narratives.
Yep. And I think that was actually a good thing. It really helped our business because we were, for example, when I have somebody interviewed on Amazon Fire TV or Newswire magazine, those are paid media placements. Getting featured on the billboard in Times Square, New York, 96-foot billboard. That's a paid media placement. But with us being so busy, and especially a lot of these PR companies dying off because the check mark thing went away,
Yes.
you couldn't pay to hack have some hacker put the check mark on your account. Um, it made it where it's actually a lot better for us because we're getting better quality people that are actually doing the stuff they say they're doing. I'll give you an example. I had a guy uh, last summer had the guy sold over 2 million copies of one of his books, best selling New York Times best selling author.
Oh
The guy
wow.
is a rock star as far as an author, and he was doing personal development books. I haven't seen anything put out recently, but he's doing these personal development books, and one of my favorite authors. I really like the guy, but he got paid to do the interview on Amazon TV, and then was going to do Amazon Fire TV, the Newswire magazine front cover, the entire feature article. And as we're talking, the guy was talking about how he'd been experimenting microdosing LSD, mushrooms, psilocybin, all these different hallucinogenic drugs. I don't know much about that, but as we were talking, he he was talking about how he was taking a bunch of mushrooms the other day, and he said I was sitting under the kitchen table, at like connecting with the universe or whatever he's doing. And he said I realized that I am God. So, tell me again. He's like I realized when I was on those mushrooms that I am God. So, I don't. There's no higher power. There's no I am the universe. I am God. And I'm like, hold on, we're going to stop the interview here. Um, So this is either going to make you, if I share this story, you've already paid me. If I share this story, it's either going to make like I'm a Christian. I've got a lot of Christian. I've got a lot of believers that are in my audience. Um, so I said this is going to be bad for you either way because if I share this, people are either going to think, okay, this guy's an idiot. He's taken too many drugs, or this is not the leader that I thought this guy was. He's not the
Yeah,
this guy does not qualify for me to care about his books or respect his opinion anymore. Or they're going to love what you think, and that's not my audience either because I'm not my target client is not somebody who's microdosing different drugs and think that they're God or think that they're the universe. So I canceled it, sent the guy back his refund on the entire thing. Not that I couldn't have used a couple $1,000s for the interview, but I'm just going, this is not the right thing. So it helped being busy enough and be able to having enough clients to where, yeah, nobody wants to give up $2,000 or refund that back to somebody and tell them, hey, thanks, I can't help you. But
of course.
it was a good thing to see that happened. Kind of filtered out
Mm,
the weirdos or the fakes from the real people.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes total sense. And yeah, like as you mentioned, like it actually, even with people getting like a check mark, first of all, it was like more of a, it was like there were a limited set of people who actually had checkbox, right? So they were kind of like a scarcity of it too. Like some people have it, some people not. Now it's like the people who want to have it, if they know like what's the use of it, only then now, even right now, only those people are gonna like pay for it. Otherwise, like even though costing like $15 a month, if they don't see the benefit of it, either like getting it safe, from other like imposters, all that etc. It's like they're not gonna sign up either ways. Now even it's costing like way less, uh, which is amazing. Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things too. Back when it cost you, I mean, these guys are paying for media articles like the one that I was featured in not too long ago. Here, $15,000 ad spot. When you are, this guy said, hey, I mentioned, hey, it's 15.5 for the guy to get your verification processed, but you also have to have all of these other big name magazine publications. You need to be featured in
Mm,
Newswire, these other magazines, in order to have the earned and paid media
yeah.
credibility for the check mark to be processed and not get revoked. Um, and that's a whole lot of money. You're talking about a minimum, probably $30,000, $40,000 if you know somebody in the industry that can do it for you. Uh, outside of the check mark
Yes.
cost there. But I said, this is a lot of money. And he goes, yeah, it's not, but have the guy send the invoice. The guy sent the invoice. He had put it on a credit card or whatever and paid it within probably 5 minutes of this guy sending the $15,000 15.5 invoice. Um, and so I'm like, man, that's the fastest anybody ever paid that. This other dude is pretty excited about it. He was wondering what made you decide to pay so quick. He said, I've got quotes for a lot more, but when somebody sees, he said, most social media folks my age, he's an older, he hosts conferences and events and stuff. He said, most social media, folks my age don't know about the check mark or don't know what it means or don't care. Um, But he said the people that understand, the other leaders, the big dog speakers who have paid, to get the check mark by paying for the media publications, getting their name out there enough. Um, he said, well, if I walk into a restaurant wearing my Patek,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
watch, a couple $100,000, I think $250,000 watch he was wearing. He said, I can walk into a restaurant with this $200,000 whatever watch. He said, there's a chance if I'm in the nicest restaurant in the entire city, there's a chance that maybe one guy in the entire restaurant will notice my watch, notice the brand, realize the value of it, and then come over and shake hands and do a business deal.
Mhm.
He said, and that business deal could generate me over $1 million this year by owning a $200,000 watch and wearing it in the restaurant. He said, that check mark, if I spend 15, 20 grand on it, whatever, he goes, everybody and their grandma knows what that blue check mark means. They
Yes.
know that it's hard to get. They know that he said that has more credibility, and I will get more results off that, off of this little, I mean, for him, it was a little amount. He said, I'll get more results off of that than I ever would with this nice watch that I wear. He said, I don't even care about watches. It's just so that I've got something that stands
Yes.
out, just like pulling up in a Lambo. You pull up and people want to know what you do for business, and you can do business with the people that are attracted to that type of,
Yeah.
that type of, whatever it
Yeah,
is.
kind of like separating, like hard to separate yourself from the all the other herd, right? Like all the other like group of like
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
so like hard to separate yourself. Okay. So I would love to know about, like, since you also like help other entrepreneurs getting visibility, let's say through billboards, right? Like these like giant billboards in New York, all that, etc. How does it actually looks like? Like at first, like especially like a guy like me who was like younger, like being in Saudi Arabia and then in Pakistan, at first, like I thought like that was not possible at all until I came into entrepreneurship and I started to see things more realistically, that they are always a process and a way to make these things work. How the thing actually works out.
Yeah.
And the second question is actually how you actually measure success with this. Because since it's a billboard and like people can, like, view it, like how you actually, like what sort of like results somebody's actually tracking out with this, is like more visibility. Like I would love to like know more about that. I'm really curious.
Uh, so I'll send you over a YouTube link of just the billboards, kind of what it
Okay.
looks like. But that's something that I'm actually, I'll say, if you're in RJ's audience right now, listen to the podcast. Um, this is not something that I do for everybody. So if I have the billboard is something I pay for out of my pocket to advertise once I've got a client that's good. I believe in their message. I think they're doing good stuff. Um, so if you have, we've done the interview on Amazon Fire TV, had that turned into an article. It's a whole separate, have somebody else write the article based on the TV interview. Write that article, do a featured article, then we put you on the cover of Newswire magazine. So you've got to submit some good pictures and stuff. We create a nice cover, Newswire branded, and then if you've got a good message, good picture, good cover there, where it's something that is good for the brand, then I'll send that off and I have that turned into a video where we'll feature eight entrepreneurs per advertisement, put it on this 96-foot billboard. And like I said, that's something that I don't do that as a service. I had a business recently wanted to pay me to put them up there. That's not my business. I'm not reselling billboard space, but the people that have a good message. So authors, entrepreneurs, motivational speakers, podcast hosts, leaders, anybody who's crushing it in life and business. That's the type of people that we feature. And then if you've got a story that really stands out and you've got a good picture, good cover, I'll pay to put that on the billboard, and just a extra little bonus that you get for being featured.
Got it. So like how I know like we're also like limited on time too, like because we went past over two. Um, but like if somebody is like more like willing to learn like how to grow your personal brand, like what are this some things actually you offer which can help them to align themselves through building their personal brand and grow it also.
So that depends. And I've been in media since 2018 now. I've spent a whole lot of money learning how to do it
Yes.
myself for my other companies since 2010. Um, but we've got a ton of different options. So what I typically do, rather than saying, here's the packages, here's this kind of a cookie cutter, hope you fit into this package type of a thing. Um, what we'll do is I'll go through, do the interview. We schedule a 30-minute video conversation. I It's almost like a podcast call where get on, do an interview with them. And if their story is something that is, something that would inspire, uplift,
Yes.
help, encourage, motivate, whatever, help our audience. And then also if they've got a way to benefit from being featured, then I'll say, okay, here's the options based on their business, their product, their service, their target audience, and we'll build something around that. But I mean, it completely depends what your business is, and if you're a podcast host, I think you would be great to be featured. But there's podcast hosts a lot of times that I will never even mention it to because it's not their audience doesn't fit my audience, or
Yes, not
their
complimenting.
plan or offering
Yeah.
doesn't fit. Yeah, so it's built around. It's kind of a invite only type of a service where after the interview, then I'll let you know if you qualify or not, and then what we can do to help you.
Got it. There's any like,
But if you want to get connected,
yeah, I
what's
was
that,
just
buddy?
asking about like how they can actually connect with you so that they can like have a conversation with you around it.
So if you Google or if you get on any social network and search M period Curtis McCoy, M Curtis McCoy is the name. Um, any social media network, send me a message. I do a lot on Instagram and Facebook, so just send me a message. Ask how you can get connected. I'll send you a booking link. We do a 30-minute video interview. Like I said, if your message aligns, if you're a good dude and you're helping people, you probably qualify to be featured.
Amazing. I'll put up like all the links in the description, also in the show notes down below, so people who are actually interested around it, they can be able to reach out to you. Curtis, again, thank you so much for being on the show today. Any last thing you want to say before we round the show up?
And I would say one of the biggest things is people are afraid a lot of times to get on camera or to start sharing their message. Or I did a podcast yesterday with a guy that would not turn his camera
Oh
on, but
wow,
the podcast host
interesting.
is just doing it as audio um, because he was nervous about being on camera. You will get started. I mean, the best time to get started is yesterday. If you can't get started yesterday, start today and start putting out the content. But you are going to look stupid. You're going to mess up. You're going to have. If you look at my old videos, I look like an idiot. That happens. Just be comfortable. Get out there. Have the courage to start doing what you're supposed to be doing. I mean, I didn't see your old stuff,
Man,
but your
I'm from Pakistan.
video
Yeah,
studio
I'm from
there is
Pakistan
absolutely
actually.
phenomenal.
See, like English is not even my first language, so I was like, oh, I never
Wow,
thought about I'm gonna do something like that. Doing podcast like was far away in my wildest dreams, but it happened, right? From starting it,
that's awesome.
lovely.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I am so honored to be your guest. But yeah, I would say just get out there and start doing it. You're going to mess up. You're going to look stupid. You're going to have people on. You'll have friends and family that go,
Yep,
"Who do you think you are? You're going to give me advice, or you're going to who thinks you're going to listen to your? They're going to listen to your podcast." Um, just get out there and do it, and you'll continue to grow. Where pretty soon you've got an audience come in, and recognition, fame generates money. I mean, just being known. People cannot do business with somebody that they don't know.
yes,
So get out there, just start hitting the streets and doing it.
yeah. That is amazing, amazing advice. And again, truly appreciate it for being on the show. And the last thing I would say to the people who actually like watch this episode is like audience always start with one person, and that's how it grows. So again, guys, thank you so much for being on the show. We're definitely going to see you guys in the next episode. Until then, peace out.